backstage doing our podcast. That's the intro.
That's the fancy. All right.
With Paul and Mike. You know, they'll put your names up. All that shit.
Like right here.
You know, when I was a kid, the rap was, we don't know what he'll do when he grows up, but it'll have something to do with his mouth.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
smart mouth.
and I was a yapper.
Yeah.
You know, always have been. Always, you know. Yeah. But nobody thinks stand-up comedian, especially back in the '60s when I was growing up. It was like politician, preacher, you know, lawyer, maybe something like that. But stand-up comedy is like,
it wasn't a real job back then.
No. Nobody knew how to do that.
No. It was,
you know,
4 people.
So your girls are at home and you're here with your wife.
So it was a great Thanksgiving.
Lovely. So did the girls just do something with them, or because they're older?
Well, our oldest doesn't live at home anymore, so she lives in Florida. So while we came to Florida, she went up there, so we completely bypassed her.
Wow. Nice.
So yeah.
Remind me again, where's up there?
Just south of Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
We lived in Florida for about 13 years prior, but you know, we're pretty familiar with most of Florida.
Do you know Dale and Jody? Dale Jones?
A little bit, yeah. I've worked with Dale a few times.
Because I know they moved up kind of in that same area,
I haven't
too.
seen them since I've been up there, but I don't do much comedy in the Atlanta area. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but the Atlanta comedy scene, not that great. Not for guys like me, anyway. You know, if you're younger, maybe, but
right. Isn't that wild? Because Atlanta,
you would think.
Well, when I started, of course, when I started, you know, in 1937. No, when I started, you know, comedy was just getting started, and the Punchline in Atlanta was the comedy club in the Southeast. I mean, Bruce Ayers always had his great club over there, but you know, really that club was like amazing,
right.
and it was one of those clubs where it was one of those clubs where if you couldn't do well in there, get the fuck out of the business.
That's how good hot the crowds were.
Always.
It was the place for the Southeast.
God!
But they lost the location.
Did a fire or something? Or
no, it sold. Company sold it or something.
And I think they were doing some major road construction in that area. It was 3 guys, Ron, Dave, and Chris DePetta.
Okay.
Ron D'Annunzio, Dave, I'm just spacing his last name out, also Italian. And I remember Bruce Ayers in Birmingham. About the second time I worked for Bruce, so I'd only been touring for a couple of years.
Right.
And I said, you know something? You're the only guy I've worked for that wasn't either Jewish or Italian. And he said, my mother's full Italian. And I went, oh, okay. I got it now. Yeah. I got how this works.
Right.
You know? But those guys had the Punchline. And then I think Ron and Dave got out of it, I think, as I remember, and Chris kind of was left. And about that time...
I think it's Jamie now.
About that time, from my understanding, was the building they were in was going to be redone, so they had to do something. They had to go somewhere else, and at the same time, it was just a major upheaval in that area, and they had to move. And and it's just never
been the same.
It's still there. Like I've performed there. But the owner
it's not
now,
even a big room, is
No,
it?
not anymore. But the owner, he outright admits that these days they do better taking the shows to the people. So he actually sets up shows around Atlanta at some of the well-to-do areas, mostly outdoor shows, which sounds awful.
Wow.
But he actually pulls them off to where he'll get 400 or 500 people at these outdoor venues, and they love it, and he'll get a nice group of comics on it. And I've done several of them, and it's actually... I hated doing outdoor shows here in Florida. They just always seem to go bad. Those are actually fun. So I don't mind those.
Interesting. Because I think they've got... Is Laughing Skull still there?
I think I've never done that.
That's a little tiny room.
Yeah.
Laughing Skull's still there.
I don't... To my knowledge, unless you're like a celebrity comic, they don't do traditional shows. It's more of like a showcase. And I'm not going to bother.
And I don't think the Improv or Funny Bone is there, is it?
I think they're getting a Helium like up on the north side or
Helium.
something. But
again, those guys.
I'm not familiar with them.
Well, Helium's, they're a rock solid group. You know, they're known to even open up a new club, or they like buying an existing club like this. It's already a turnkey operation kind of a deal. But that's Mark and his guys, and they're, you know, I think all the helium clubs, as far as I've ever heard, are all really good.
Yeah, they're up there with the, you know, Funny Bones, right?
Yeah.
I've never been. I just would have thought, you know, I didn't move to Atlanta for comedy.
Right.
But I thought once I moved to that area, I'm going to go check it out. It's obviously going to have a killer comedy, you know, scene. No,
yeah, they're
not really.
I remember I did a few spots there, and I was like, I went to this one mic. It was funny because it's hard as a comic not to enjoy this. But basically, if you didn't get a laugh, they would just be like, next! Like, they'd throw you up. It was an open mic, but if you didn't get a laugh in the first, like, 20 seconds, they were just like, get off! You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, because, like, you're...
Was that the punchline?
Yeah, no, it was just a room somewhere.
Oh, okay.
But it was, like, it was kind of... They were known for kind of doing stuff like that, where they would just immediately be like, nope, you're gone. Because they don't, like, they almost, like, don't want to waste their time. Right. You know what I mean? And so it's really funny to watch, like, these newer comics just like looking around like they're about to get assassinated.
Yeah.
And it was just some like crazy black dude just popping out of nowhere, like, nope, we're done with you. Like, and this next comic, you might like him. You know what I mean? Like, it was funny.
Nuts.
I've never seen anybody else do that though. Usually, you know, you get your 3 minutes or your 5 minutes or whatever, no matter how bad it goes. You know? But I've seen one. I think south of here though, they do like a drag queen like open mic, where basically like you come up, and if the crowd can just boo you off the stage if they want, which is like, I don't know. I mean, like
live at the Apollo.
But it's like, it's not even, they won't even boo you because you offended them. They'll just be like, you didn't get a laugh in the first 20 seconds, boo, or like you're boring them, boo, get out of here. You know, it's funny. I mean. Yeah. You don't want it to happen to you, but when you're in the back of the room, you're kind of dying laughing.
Well, that's how it works when you're a comic. When things are a disaster, that's when it's the funniest.
Well, and I mean, that's the crazy, those crazy kind of performance situations, and one-nighters and one-nighters. I remember Tom Sobel, this guy out of Kentucky. He used to book the Comedy Caravan, and it was all one-nighters in college towns. You didn't play on campus. You played a bar across the street from the campus. You know,
probably better than the campus.
Well, I always found them to be fun. Shows, but you just know it's college kids.
It's rowdy.
They're rowdy. Yeah. You got to jump in there and grab their attention.
Yeah.
And pretty quick, or else they'll turn on you. You know what I mean?
Pretty quickly too.
Yeah. They'll give you. I think usually I would say they'll give you 10 minutes without completely, but if you've been up there for 10 damn minutes, which anybody listening to this or watching this, we can tell you that doesn't sound like much time, but it's an eternity when things ain't going well. You know what I mean? Whether it's a performance or a fight. Either way, it's a long time.
It's a long time.
If shit ain't going well.
It's time slows down.
Absolutely.
Well, if you're not, sorry. No, please. I was going to say, when you're not a part of it and you're witnessing it, that can be the best thing ever, though.
Oh, when things love watching comics bomb.
Or just when things that aren't supposed... Ron Feingold, of course, right?
Sure, of course.
I used to, years ago, go on the road with him quite a bit. And
open bar, by the way. Open bar comedy.
We're plugging it.
Subscribe.
I'm on there.
I know you are. I am, too.
Yeah, but good old Ron, we did so many shows together, I could probably have done his act at that point. It was just night after night. Yeah. And to where he actually had the similar gestures at certain points. And there was one point where he'd always lean his foot out off the stage and put it on a chair right up at front. He'd turn it backwards and put his foot out. And the one night, the chair wasn't there. And he forgot, and so when he stepped out, he did move where his foot went down, and he didn't fall, but he did that, oh shit, and it froze him. And I'm in the back, half asleep, because, I don't know how many shows we'd done, and I cracked up to where I had to shut my mouth, because I was disrupted. But it was the funniest thing, seeing him try to get his composure back, and I'm not saying it because, I love the guy, but it just cracked me up, because we're jerks.
Yeah.
Well,
it woke me up, and I'm like, that was the best thing ever.
Oh, when your friend bombs, it's so fun.
He didn't bomb. He did great, but
when
it
something bad
happens,
oh my god, it's so much fun. There was this kid that came to the open mic, and his nervous tick was he would take the cord, and he would like wrap it around him. So you knew how bad his set was going because by the end of his set, he'd be completely like just wrapped in the cord. It would take him an uncomfortable like 20 seconds.
Like a comedy bondage thing.
It would be like around his body almost.
That's
and at first you're thinking like this has got to be leading somewhere. Like this is gonna be a good act out, and it's not. It's just his nervous tick.
What's he do with a cordless mic?
Yeah.
That's probably what he needs, honestly. But it was my favorite.
Totally fuck him up. The cordless mic.
Yeah.
We had when we were touring, Ken Sons and I, with an improv show. We did half stand-up, half improvisation. Mm-hmm. So we booked this guy, Sam, who was really a good improvisationalist, you know. And so he would open the show, you know. And he was okay comic. Yeah. But we played Atlantic City for the first time.
Okay.
And we were there for 2 weeks with 2 days off in between. It was a Wednesday through Sunday, but 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So the first week, that motherfucker couldn't buy a laugh for $100 to everybody. I mean, every night, no matter what he did. Yeah. So to the point where it just got funnier and funnier because, you know, and you know, it just, and then he's, you know, by the third show, he's like, oh, fuck, you know, and then, you know, and we're even like, okay, try this, and then we're giving you our best advice, and then he gets up here and it just sucking again, and we're like, so when we had our break, our 2-day break, we went up to Manhattan, and stayed with some friends up there, and so we were walking around one day, and walked by this huge bookstore. This is back when there were bookstores.
Right.
And a huge bookstore. So we walk in there and we're looking around, and I happened to see Milton Berle's joke book.
Oh my God.
And I mean, this motherfucking joke book is this thick. And I mean, there's thousands of jokes in there that I'm pretty sure Milton did not write. But it's just loaded with jokes, right? Mm-hmm. So me and Ken bought it. We gave it to Sam, and we said, between now and Wednesday night, we want you to memorize 10 minutes worth of jokes out of this joke book. For real. We're like, for real, man. We ain't even kidding you. We want you to find 10 jokes. And he did. He was like, well, nothing else was working. He did. He's like, okay, whatever, fuck. Yeah. Got up Wednesday night, smoked, killed. With nothing but old fucking jokes.
It's got to be a double-edged sword, though, because I would imagine being in that situation thinking like, oh, it felt good to finally get some laughs, but then it's like, but it wasn't my
material.
I didn't do it.
Absolutely.
That's so funny, though. The embarrassment of getting that book, though, is so funny.
Do your homework.
Here you go. Here you go.
Well, I remember the older comics would tell me they would send ketchup to the comic when he was dying on stage. They would have the waitress deliver a bottle of ketchup. And it's just... You know, like they know
you
dickhead.
You're just eating it. Eating it. Yeah. Is there one particular bomb situation that you got into that was just it was just impossible? You know, that really sticks out in your brain. You know.
You got one?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you go first.
I remember 6 or 7 of yours.
Well, my favorite. I have 2.
He's like, it was tonight.
I have 2. I have one that was a full 0. Like, didn't get a laugh at all.
Right.
Like, just zero. Luckily, it was just a 5-minute spot. Mm-hmm. But it was just 0 to the point where I'm, like, really sweating trying to get something. You know how you're searching for a closer, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And this guy's phone goes off, like, loud as shit. And he's right up front. And he answers it. And I'm like, yeah, you can just answer that, I guess. And he answers it. And he's like, hey, what's up, man? Nah, not much. Just at this weird show. Nah, yeah, there's a guy on stage right now. He's looking at me like he's full volume talking, and everybody's hearing this. And then he starts killing. Like they're all laughing with him now. Oh, I have so many now that I think about it. But the worst was when I did the Halloween show here, and it was when you were doing those interviews after the show.
Oh yeah.
This is so funny because like I listened to the podcast and we were doing something like this, similar to this. And I'm out, like you hosted, then you came back and you brought me out.
Right.
And it was Al Ernst that week.
Okay.
And I come out and I'm just not connecting with them. And I'm kind of being a little abrasive because I gave them like stuff that usually works and they just weren't about it. So then I was like, the only people who came tonight are losers who didn't get invited to a costume party, and they were like, boo. And on the podcast, you went, did Mike just get booed? I don't think I've ever heard Mike get booed before. He's like, what the hell was that? So then I come back off and I'm like, that was rough. And then you're like, we're gonna do the interview after. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. And I'm like, no, I want to do it. And when I come back out on stage and they're not asking me any questions. So I bombed twice, like in the same night. In the interview, they didn't laugh at anything I said either. Like they just hated me. It was like, I get it. I called them all losers, but it was like a recorded bomb though. Like you can find it on YouTube, I'm pretty sure.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's it. You know, you turned on the audience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean.
But what were you going to do?
I mean, yeah. I'm a very, like, people go, he's harmless. Like, nobody feels threatened when I get mad.
Right.
But, like, I felt them just be like, we don't like this guy at all now. Like, anybody who might have been like, let's give him a chance to talk it out. I called them all losers, and they were like, nope, we're done.
That's right.
And I was like, they felt like that kind of crowd, though. Like, they just had nothing else to do on Halloween night. Right. And they're going to come to a comedy show.
But I did all right that night.
You did great. You did great. You did a tight 30.
And you had to follow it.
Fucking nothing.
Oh, man.
Oh, it was funny.
What's your...
Okay, so it's not so much bombing as it is one of those horrible, horrible gigs.
Gotcha.
The worst that I ever imagined, to where it was fairly early when I was doing comedy and I was starting to get some corporate work, and a fellow that worked, I don't know exactly what he did. It was something to where he worked for some healthcare company, and they would send me to like nursing homes and assisted living centers to do a show, and then he would come out, or somebody that works with him, and do a little presentation for whatever it is that they were hawking. But there was like, free show, come out, to the little common area, and we'll do a half-hour show, 45 minutes, and then we'll have a little speech. So I did 4 or 5. They all went fine. They weren't great, but, I got paid. And he sent me a gig, here's the next one. So I go to it, and I go to this place, and, like, this place just looks different, right? And I go up to the front, and I'm getting a bad feeling, and I go and tell the lady, I'm here to do the show. And she's like, what show? I'm like, I show her the paper and that. She's like, well, you can bring some people out to the room. I don't know what good it's going to do. And I'm like, I'm just here to do the show. Isn't the person coming to do the speech? And she's like, I don't know a thing about it. And she was quite rude about it. And they bring me to the room, and they have people wheeled into this room in beds, like hospital beds.
Oh,
it was a hospice center. These were people that were there in
For
comas.
End of life.
Yeah. That weren't even aware of anything going on. And I'm asking them, like, why are they having a show here? She's like, you tell me. Like, they were mad at me that I was there. I'm like, I have no idea. I was just sent here to do this. So I'm trying to call the guy, like, what the hell's going on? And he's like, oh, that was a mistake. We weren't supposed to send you to that one. I'm like, well, I'm here now.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually perform, okay, but it was probably the most uncomfortable, and to where I was just sitting in the car afterwards, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, why would they send me here of all places?
Yeah, the show bombed.
It wasn't on me, I guess, but it was probably the worst feeling I ever had when I actually walked in that room and I see them, they're hooked up to machines and unconscious and that. I'm like,
I had something
that's
like
not
that,
what I want.
and I knew what I was walking into. It was head trauma center, and so somebody said, they asked me to go. Here's the deal: if you would come do it, and we're going to be straight up with you, there'll be about 50 patients. They will not be able to respond.
Nice.
They won't be able to respond, but I want you to know that in the inside, they get. I mean, they get it, but they can't respond.
They're gonna blink at you a lot.
But there were nurses in the room.
Okay.
So there were
got
like
some
30 nurses.
You
so
played with them.
You're performing, but it was weird. It was weird in that, you would say, but it wasn't a big response from the nurses. So, because they're kind of, split focus.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is that I was like, they were like, trust me, these people are laughing. But because they're not brain dead, they just can't respond.
And what you'd be like,
and so
like
you're holding,
audience.
you're holding for laughs
brain dead,
that are in some silent world, it was the weirdest.
To be fair, though, there's a lot of people in regular club audiences that the whole time they're just sitting there, not a peep out of them, no expression, and then inevitably they're the ones that come up. I really enjoyed that show. That was so funny. I needed that. And I'm like, really? You enjoyed it? Okay.
I've heard that over the years. I've heard it. I've heard that so many times from comics that will go, you get that kind of audience that just was work. Work, and then after the show, they sold more merchandise than they did on any other show. And they were all like, we had a great time. And you're like, what the fuck?
I did a brewery in Connecticut, and they were like, that's all I got. And they were the nicest people. They came up to you, and they were just like, you were incredible. And I'm like, really? And they bought all my shit.
Yeah.
And they were the most confusing I've ever.
Just no energy.
Yeah. No. And they were just like, they just weren't laughers. You know what I mean?
Then you have those shows where it's a killer audience. You're like, this is great. And then they all just leave immediately.
Yeah, they don't buy nothing.
Right.
There are a couple of areas like that where you just don't buy anything.
Yeah,
you learn clubs too. Like, I'm sure you've heard it too and experienced that. There's certain clubs that it's a fun club, but I know I'm not going to sell hardly anything at this place. And I hate to be one of those guys, but you get to a point to where when you rely on merch sales to keep cover traveling, that there's certain clubs like, do I want to take the gig?
Yeah, they don't buy much.
Like the one was, and I can say it now because it's closed, but it was the comedy. What was it? The Carolina Comedy Club. Now I do the Comedy Cabana up there, which is awesome for sales, but the other
was that
one
in Myrtle Beach?
Yeah, right in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
It was a fun room, but it was like late night party goers that were there because it was an entertainment plaza that it was at.
Right.
And they would come in, enjoy the show, have fun. You'd maybe sell 5 shirts the entire week you were there.
Right.
It was awful.
Right. We generally always hear the comics sell really well here.
Yeah.
And I always think with my crowd over the years, I think that they're not as much buying from you because they really want your merchandise. I think our crowds are savvy to the fact that if you're not a star, they know you're not making a shitload of money.
They're tipping you.
They're tipping you. It's a way. And I had one comic come in, and he didn't sell much. He stood at the door with a tip bucket.
Oh, wow. I've seen that. Yeah.
And he told me, he said, do you mind if I do that? Because a lot of the clubs get pissed off about it. I said, I don't give a flying fuck.
Yeah.
I will promote that there's a tip bucket over there. Yeah. And he goes, I stand there and hand my cards out. I talk to people. I don't acknowledge it. It's just there, kind of a deal. And I said, I don't give a fuck. But I think he picked up probably about $100 on every show.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Especially if you kill. They really loved you.
Right.
They just want to give you something.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And we were talking about James Gregory, who was the guy that really passed away not long ago. But James was out of Atlanta, and James was the one that taught everybody the merchandise.
Right.
Nobody was merchandisers until James Gregory popped up. No fucking body.
That's crazy.
And James because James approached comedy as a business.
Right.
He was older. He had been in business. He understood marketing. So his show was all set up with catchphrases,
right?
And it was all built
as business,
as a marketing moneymaker, you know. And Jeff Foxworthy wouldn't have had his book, wouldn't have done the Redneck book if it hadn't been for James. And I mean, and James, whenever he'd see you, he'd go, what are you selling after your show now? And if you said, I hadn't really gotten anything together, he'd always go, you must be doing really well. You don't even need to sell that merch, do you, buddy? But
it's crazy how the merch changes depending on how successful you get too. I always notice that because at first you're like, you gotta sell something gimmicky, and then when you're big, you just put your name on it.
Well, of course.
Put your name on a shirt.
Well, my best story on that was, Tommy Chong, Cheech and Chong. Yep. Okay. So the first time Tommy played my club, and that was I couldn't have been more starstruck in my life than when standing there with Tommy Chong, because that was when I was a young teenager.
Yeah.
Oh, you
I could recite every, and so the comedy club owner in Chattanooga, Michael Alfano, he'd already been there. So I talked to Michael, how'd it go? And he goes, it went great. Tommy was great. He was a great act. He was great to deal with. And he goes, and he said, he doesn't sell anything. we had our comedy club shirts, Tommy Chong Up in Smoke, and they bought them. They bought all of them. Wow. You know,
Yeah.
I said, really? Okay. So I ordered, I think 200 of our shirts,
right?
And I had on the front Tommy Chong Up in Smoke. We sold every T-shirt at the first show, every T-shirt, and so after the show, everybody's coming up to Tommy with these shirts getting on, and he's standing there and he's autographing. So that was all over with. He walks up to me, not mad. He just goes, I asked the question list, who said you could put Tommy Chong Up in Smoke on your T-shirts? I said, well, Michael Alfano said he did it in Chattanooga. He goes, I don't think so. And so I called Michael, and he goes, no, fucking dumbass. He wrote Tommy Chong Up in Smoke on our shirts when he autographed them. So I went up to Tommy and I said, I'm very sorry, man. I just misunderstood. I said, hey, I am happy to give you the money for the shirts. They're great advertising. He goes, keep the money. Yeah. How many shirts you sell? I said, 200 in the first show. He goes, I need some fucking shirts. And he laughed. And the next year when he came back, he fucking hugged me right off the bat, and he goes, buddy, you made me a lot of money last year. He goes, I don't know why it didn't even occur to me to sell something after the show, but until you did that, it didn't. And he goes, I made as much money selling fucking shirts and shit as I did off the fee, the that I charged, and
it's crazy what you can sell.
Well, I think we all get to that point in comedy, because I put merch off for the longest time, because I am a business guy. I've run a business my whole life, worked my families, did my own as a young man, and so comedy was my escape. I didn't want work to be comedy, and so I put it off, and then eventually I was like, but if I'm going to keep comedy going, I got to make a few more bucks. The traveling's really starting to cost. And so I got to where I was selling shirts and had a few different styles, and they were doing okay. But I hated it because it just didn't feel right. I'm like, I'm going to sell out. And there's some shows I'd sell great in that, but now, doing stuff that's actually my work, and I've switched it over to that. It's kind of like, okay, I'm combining the two worlds, but it sells really good, so I can't complain.
So, and that's interesting too. That you're a sculptor,
right?
And your family are sculptors. And you said your family, was it your mom and dad that came over from Scandinavia?
Yes.
Sweden,
Denmark.
Yeah. Denmark. So you're first generation American.
Yeah, the only.
Well,
I mean, my kids are now, but as far as my original family and that was the only one. They never got citizenship, nothing, just me.
Right. Yeah. So these crazy Denmark illegal aliens.
Pretty much. I mean, they were legal aliens, but my dad was kind of the opinion, like, laws don't apply to me.
Yeah, they're not really looking for us.
We can do some stuff here. You can't.
But he built a really, you said, pretty successful business.
Yeah, it was right on Route 66, and during the late 70s and into the 80s was considered the largest in North America of its type. And not just that, but him and a partner were also the guys that started the whole roadside fireworks stand thing back in the early 70s, where you drive along Route 66 and it could actually just pull off the side of the road.
Sure.
Yeah. And they'd have the little pop-up stand selling fireworks. And so here he was, just moved to the country, making tons of money selling fireworks. But then, of course, everybody did it when they realized how much money it was, so it killed the market.
Right.
But he didn't. He was like, these stupid Americans, they love their fireworks. He'd haul the black powder illegally. He didn't care.
He made the fireworks?
No, but he knew the plants in the woods, back in the Ozarks and that, where they'd secretly make them and they'd blow up. The guy'd have missing fingers and everything. But they had to bypass laws to get it made. My dad's like, laws don't apply to me. I'm not American. I'll get you your black powder. And so he'd get the fireworks real cheap, and then that's how it all started. But so the first couple of years they lived in the country, they were able to buy like 2-3 houses. Of course, they were dirt cheap then.
Right.
But then they had rental properties. But then it all went kaput. because of everybody doing fireworks, so it killed the market. So that's when he had always been working in concrete, started doing the statuary.
And the statues, are they made from molds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, back in the day, of course, we did the real big stuff. You know, all the huge fountains, bird baths, everything. Just thousands and thousands of them. These days, I try to do small stuff. I don't want to do the big crap anymore.
Sure.
But yeah, I design the piece, make a mold of it. My main business is actually selling the molds. So all around the world, I sell the molds to people so they can do it as a hobby, start their own business, whatever.
So do you have a website that people can go to and buy your
plug it?
Rubbermoldman.com.
What's it called?
Rubbermoldman.
Rubbermoldman.com.
That's me. Yeah, and that's what went viral, are the videos of me making the statues and that, and millions of views over a guy like me making little statues. People seem to love it.
Now, something that you come out at the end with your little statues, but you don't really have a bit around the statues.
So I've been so the statue thing's fairly new, just so you understand. Okay, I've been debating the idea for a while, and then when things really took off with the videos, I told my wife, I'm just going to try it. I said I'm going to take a few of the little things and see, and I took 15 to a show, sold all 15.
Yeah, they sell pretty well, I would say.
Yeah. And so I tried a couple other shows. So I'm actually working on some specific designs just for comedy merch.
Right.
But right now I'm still at the point to where, because I can't keep up, I can only make so many at this point.
Sure.
So I'm just making some small things. I have a gnome I'm working on that's specifically for the shows.
You need somebody. You need to hire somebody else.
Yeah, right? It's busy. I mean, I'm in the condo today.
Yeah.
I was literally painting all those. I have a portable little painting kit, so it's all contained and everything. But I just sat there all day painting, because if I'd rather make some money instead of going out to the stores.
Well, yeah.